Are we able to move forward, Kurt, or are we still waiting for something? Good to go? Okay. All right, well, welcome everybody to our May 27th, 2020 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for the City of Mason. So I want to welcome everybody and go through our agenda, which is the first thing we'd like to do is our Pledge of Allegiance. So Kurt, I don't know if you've got the American flag that we can show for everybody, but we would like to follow what we do when we're in person. And I would ask everybody to stand and just recite the Pledge of Allegiance with all of us. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone, for doing that. And Bill, when you're ready, if you want to call the roll.
Here.
Mr. Woolfolk,
Here.
Mr. Frankie,
Here.
Mr. Kalpin,
Here.
Mr. Keithley.
Here.
All right. Well, the first item on the agenda tonight is the approval of the April 29th, 2020 meeting minutes. And I know we had some revisions that were made on the document that Mr. Kiesling started. I believe I added some additional comments and Ms. Frankie added some additional comments. And I believe Ms. Khan and Mr. Woolfolk both said they had no further comments. So did anybody have any questions on the version of the document that was sent out by Ms. Frankie on Wednesday, 5/27? I guess that was today at 2:42 p.m.
No.
Any further questions or comments? Okay, if that being said, then I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes as amended based upon that version that Ms. Frankie sent out today.
I'll make a motion that we approve the April 29th, 2020 meeting minutes as revised.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Kiesling. All those in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Opposed? The agenda, the meeting minutes as revised passes. Thank you for that. All right, before we get into the one variance that we have on the agenda tonight, I just want to explain the process that we follow. So Mr. Barnett, our representative from the city, is on our call today. He'll provide a brief presentation of the variance request. Once Bill finishes that, we'll then ask the applicant, if they are in attendance on the call, to provide a brief presentation to the board. And once that's finished, we may have, as a board, we may have questions of the applicant. We would also ask that the applicant state their name and address for the record before they begin. We may have questions of the applicant during their presentation. Once those questions and that presentation is complete, we'll close the public comment period. Or I'm sorry, we'll then ask anybody in attendance who might want to speak in favor for or against the variance. We'll ask them to also provide any testimony. Once that's complete, we'll close the public comment period. We'll open it up for board discussion. And we have all members of the board present here, so only 3 out of the 5 votes will be needed to pass the variance tonight. All motions are made in the positive. So all motions will be made to approve the variance, and then it'll be either voted up or down. So is the applicant on the call? Mr. Larger, are you on the call? If you are, if you could just speak up. Do you see him, Kurt?
All right, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, all right. My name is Chris Larger. My wife Julie is with me.
Hey,
And-
Mr. Larger, if you could hold on one second, I just want to make sure you're in the audience. What I want to do is just swear you in.
Okay,
What I'm just going to ask you to do is stand and raise your hand. And anybody who might be speaking either in favor for or against the variance, I would also ask you to do the same. Please stand and raise your right hand. Is the testimony that you're about to give tonight to the City of Mason Zoning Board of Appeals the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
It is. Yes.
And you can respond to the affirmative.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, so before we get into it, so the first item on the agenda is a fence variance. It's on West Church Street. Its zoning is R4. It's requested for fencing of a vacant property. It's requested by Chris Larger, and it's case number PLN 20-39. Bill, you want to make the presentation?
Sure, thank you. Like you said, Chris Larger is requesting a variance for the construction of a fence on an empty lot at the end of West Church Street. Our zoning regulations don't allow the construction of accessory structure on a lot, whether it be a fence, a pool, a shed, a detached garage, what have you. It doesn't allow the construction of an accessory structure on the lot before the house is built. And the lot in questions are vacant parcels at the end of West Church Street and are located across the street from 608, where Mr. Larger lives. And he owns both properties, obviously. The property is part of the Dilly subdivision and was also part of the original plat of Mason from back in, I believe, the 1800s. At the time, the lots were 25 feet wide. Some were consolidated over the years to form the lot's current configuration. The applicant's requesting a variance for two different fence proposals. One proposal shows a fence encompassing what is shown as the auditor's account number 112663, which is outlined in blue. And the other proposal shows a fence encompassing that lot as well as the lot to the west, which used to be 609 West Church Street. And while we're not vehemently opposed to the request, we still want to be cautious about setting what could look like a precedence for building accessory structures on the lot before the main structure is built.
And Bill, do you have a video as well?
Yeah, Kurt's going to help us out with that also.
Okay, thanks, Kurt.
Okay, let me share the video here. Well, hang on. Try that again. Let's see if it works this time. Sorry. It is not, I can see it on my screen, but you can't. Let's see.
Look like it's showing up, Kurt.
All right, one more time. Let me see if I try this one. Nope. Okay, let me try.
Kurt, what
Sorry.
about going into Google? Will Google allow you to kind of pull it up
Okay.
and you show it via Google?
All right, there we go. It didn't
There
like
you
it. Didn't like it in full screen, I guess. Okay, let's try this. Is that showing up okay?
That's perfect.
Yes.
Okay. I think I had it in full screen. It didn't like that. Okay.
Okay, it looks like we do have Mr. Larger on the call. So Mr. Larger, would you like to provide a presentation to the board?
Yes, one clarification on the two lines that were presented on the one, where one was in blue and one was in red on showing the parcels. You pull that up. Yes, when I was putting this out, for some reason on the maps, I couldn't get that blue line to go over to where the far left red line is. So really, and
Yes.
I wrote that, yes, that's
Yes.
correct. It would be to really take that blue line. So there's two options that we're asking for. Option one, obviously being a little larger inside, closer to the road, which would be in line with the neighbor's house and garage. Yeah, there you go. You got it. And then if you were to look at the video, you would see that blue line would be in line with the garage. The red line is in line with the neighbor's fence. That's at the front of their property. So that the blue one is their house setback, red is their fence setback. And the reason that really our reason we would like to fence this area in is very simple. We have a couple collies, and my wife likes to, she enjoys working with our dogs. She does agility, and really we just want a nice area for them to run. And that's really the purpose of it. And our intent is to match the fence that we have on our current property, which is a 4-board fence. And that's the intent.
So if I understand, Mr. Larger, you're saying the one is this fence that's here. You've got the red line in line with that, and the blue line is in line with the front of the house.
That is correct.
Okay, so those are the two options. And back here, these are meant to be at the same location at the rear property line?
Yes, and the other thing too that's never really been clear, and you'll see the on the one red line, which is coming from front to back at 208 feet, I think it is, or 203, on the right side. What you'll see there's a gap, and I think that right away there is still the city of Masons. That has never been determined from over many years.
Mm-hmm.
It's an easement that I think the city owns. It's like a road or an alleyway.
Right, that's an alley. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then also on the back of the property as well is another alleyway. It's kind of almost where that blue line is.
And just for clarity, Mr. Larger, I did some checking on that, and it appears that was vacated.
This was vacated, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep, back here.
Okay.
And
So
I'm
is
not-
that blue
This one, I
line?
believe, still exists.
I thought that was vacated also.
This one, okay.
I thought it was.
Okay.
I thought so too. Yeah, so I don't know if you can see me or hear me, but I do that dog agility, which is where you weave, do the weave pulls and jumps and things like that. And the backyard's not real flat, but over there it is. And it's nice to have a fence so your dogs don't see a rabbit and take off or what have you. So that's really the intent, is just to have a place where they can play, and I can set up some jumps and practice, and that's it.
Mrs. Larger, just for the record, could you state your name and address?
Yes, I'm Julie Larger, 608 West Church Street.
Thank you. So on this to the south, where exactly in relationship with the property line is the applicant requesting the fence to be? Because there's lots of different lines down there right now, and I'm not exactly sure where the fence would be proposed.
I believe they're asking for along the property line right in here.
That is correct.
And
Okay, so
it's just the red got drawn in the wrong spot, I think, up a little
okay.
bit. Yeah.
So along the property line then.
Right.
Okay.
Which is the center line of the former alley.
Okay, got it, Kurt.
That dashed line here, this is where the alley used to be. and that was vacated. And so now their property goes to the center line here of the alley.
Okay.
Yep.
But it doesn't go to the center line of the other alley that was vacated, right?
This alley here still exists, but this alley, Bill was saying is vacated. And so their property line probably is to the center of this alley as well.
Okay.
So they could potentially go, out here.
To the east, that's not vacated. That's still active, right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Mr. and Mrs. Larger, anything else that you'd like to add for the board?
I don't think so. I mean, we still would maintain that alley
Which we
fence,
do
or which
now.
we do now, fence or no fence. So, we mow it, and
Which alley you're referring to?
the one where the X is, yes. That
Okay.
one. Yes.
So you mow that right now, I take it?
Yes.
We do.
Yes. Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Mhm.
Does the board have any questions of the applicant?
I just have a question on the property itself. So there's no physical building that's going to be put on that property?
No.
No.
Any other questions of the applicant from the board?
Yes.
Go ahead, Bernie.
Mr. Larger, have you spoken to any neighbors? Has anyone expressed support of your proposal?
We have the few that we've spoken to, yes, there's been no issue at all that we're aware of.
Mr. Larger, which neighbors have you spoken to? If you could maybe identify them on the graphic?
Okay, where your
First is Debbie.
where your arrow is, the Haynes, that house, then the next one down is Ashley. Then if in the video, the 75 down here, this lot, or keep going that way, that one. She's up for it. These people are working on the house and do not live there. Then I've not talked to them. And then the woman that lives next door to us, who you don't see in this picture, or
It would be
further across the street, she was all for it.
the other corner for us on Church Street.
So is that the corner, the northwest corner of Mason Road and Church Street, that property?
Yes.
That's correct.
Yes. Oh, gosh.
There
Yeah,
is-
it's that one right there.
Yes.
So you've spoken to those property owners, and what was their response?
They were all for it. They said, great.
Okay. Are there any other questions of the applicant from the board?
Just one more. Did you consider a invisible fence at all?
No, I haven't, honestly. Simply, I've had them before, and I've had dogs that will run through them. And because we're so close to Mason Road, and lots of people walk, and I just don't feel like it's as safe or secure. I mean, if a rabbit is in that field close by or whatever, I think mine might run if they see it. And I thought, in keeping with the, our house and the fence, to match that fence on the other side. I really didn't think of, I mean, I've had them before, and I've had dogs run through them, so it's not the most secure thing for me and for my dogs, but so I think I probably wouldn't do that.
Gotcha.
And the fence that you currently have on the property that's across the street, your primary residence, I guess, what's the outline of your fence there? Is it just in the front?
It's just in the back. It's a Kentucky 4-board fence. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get an understanding of what's fenced on your current property.
Oh, you can't, if you go back to the video, or I don't know. I'm not very techie. It's the backyard. And when we built the house, we actually had to there's quite a hill in the backyard, which didn't really exist. When we built that house, it kind of created that. So it's not a real flat piece of property, but it's the outline. It's a kind of a narrow backyard, and it just sort of goes the width of the house and behind the detached garage.
And you don't have enough room there to do the type of agility training that you would do?
Well, what I don't have there is flat surface. You know, I don't, like, if you can't tell from this, but it goes down to that little creek. So if you keep, let's see. If you go back, so that's the fence, and that's kind of the flattest, but you can sort of see how the fence line is going down on the left, on the far left. It goes down to that creek bed. And there's not a lot of room that's flat in the back. So if you, there really is, I mean, it's plenty of room for them to run and have fun, but I wouldn't set up things, and I wouldn't at my age run around on the hill, to be honest. So that's why. I wish we had a picture of the back that you could see that. Because you all have probably driven by it on the left, you know, that big retaining wall that we put in.
Yep.
So that retaining wall, that's level at some point, and then, you know, it drops down to that creek, and that's why we had to put that wall in there. So that's the, I don't know what you call it, the drop from the house to the creek. So it's just not it's not a real flat space.
And what intentions do you have with that property across the street?
For it to be very pretty and for me to look at it and to let the dogs run. We have no intention of ever building on that property. It's just privacy and green space, and we've added a lot of trees and just to enjoy it.
I guess where I'm going with that, though, is if you're doing agility training over there, I know that requires to have obstacles. And so are there going to be permanent obstacles over there to do the agility?
No. I don't have much but jumps and a tunnel, and I don't have the big elements that you're thinking of. I don't own those.
Weave poles and stuff like that. It's all
movable.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Look at that. Can you go to the backyard from that? Over top of it?
I don't know if the aerial view is going to have the most recent footprint of your property, of your house. It looks like it does.
Yeah, it does. See those steps right down the middle? Like those steps are there because that's a pretty steep, kind of goes in the middle to nowhere, steps to nowhere. That just goes down the hill. Because you come out and go down, so. That's cool.
mm-hmm.
Bill and Kurt, what's the I guess the city's regulations as it relates to if the board were to approve this tonight and, you know, the property change hands and sometime down the road, and then someone wants to build a house here, are we putting ourselves in a precarious position then at that point if a primary structure were to go on this property in the future, if we were to approve this tonight?
I think you could approve with the condition that if it's ever sold, that it's removed. I think you'd have the latitude to do that.
Or if a primary, or if another primary building were to be put on it, we would want to at that point revisit the fence location.
Sure. I don't see why you couldn't.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the only issue would be the fence in the front yard. If you approved it with the line where it was back in line with the existing house. Once the house was added, the fence would be in full compliance because now you have a primary structure and the fence wouldn't be in the front yard.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
With the exception of, I guess, the alley, technically, Bill, would be a front yard as well.
It would.
Yeah.
I mean, they could approve it contingent that if a primary structure is ever built, that the fence be scaled back to be flush with the front. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a couple different things they could put on this if they choose.
Mhm.
Okay. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Kurt.
Sure.
Okay, I don't have any further questions. Are there any other final questions that may have come up since this conversation? Go ahead, Bernie.
Just briefly, how tall will the fence be?
I have to go out and measure our existing, but I think it's 4 feet.
Okay, no taller than 4 feet,
I don't,
right? It's about chest level or lower, maybe.
yes, yes.
I could run out there.
Kurt, you had a picture of the property with the fence off to the side there. Can you show that again?
It would not, we would match the house side is the intent.
Would you guys like me to go measure it real quick?
I don't think you need to do that. The fence is probably no taller than 5 feet. Most of those 3 and 4 fences, they're about 4 feet plus or minus a couple inches.
I'm 5 feet tall and it's 36 or 48.
That's
It's not
48.
48 inches, I bet.
Yeah, that's what, so you're essentially going to match that same style. And
That is correct. We got the same a bid from the same people to do the same one across the street, exact same thing.
okay. All right. Any other final questions?
This might be a question for Bill. So I know this is weird because there's no primary structure, but for fences, other than the front yard setback, is there any like side or rear yard setback requirement?
There's really not. Fences can go up to, but not on top of a property line. It's just the big issue here is having an accessory structure on a lot before the principal structure. So again, whether it's a shed, a detached garage, a gazebo, pool, or what have you, zoning doesn't want those things on the lot before the principal structure. That's what the variance is really circling around more so than, I guess, the setback.
Okay.
And Bill, if there was a house on there, the alley is right away and so is Church Street. So there'd be front yards in both.
Yeah,
Along here
you
as
need a
well as
variance to
here.
have the fence along the alleyway.
Yeah.
That's correct. But I believe there's also 2 lots there, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Mr. Larger? One where 609 used to be, and then the
That is-
one that never really had anything on it.
That is correct, Bill.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page with that. So yeah, there's 2 different lots. The one that essentially is shown in blue there would in essence be a corner lot because of the alley having 2 front yards.
Right.
And the one west of that is just your, typical rectangular shape or trapezoidal shaped lot.
Got it. Okay, last chance. Any other final questions for the applicant? All right, hearing or seeing none, I will ask if there's anybody in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this variance. If you do, if you could just please speak up or raise your hand. Kurt, is there anybody that you see who is requesting to speak?
Nope. I think just the Largers are the only attendees that are on.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's what I'm saying too. Okay,
Yep.
well, just for the record, I'm just going to ask, is there anybody who would like to speak in opposition to this variance? Again, I would just ask for you to either raise your hand or indicate that you'd like to speak. Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public comment period and open it up for board discussion. I'll just go ahead and start out. I mean, I'm not necessarily opposed to this. I would say that part of my feeling in that regard is that we don't have any applicants who are coming out saying that they're opposed, or any neighbors coming out and saying that they're opposed to this. And I do think this is somewhat unique in that we've got a property owner that is across the street who owns these properties. It's not like this is just sitting in the middle of nowhere and someone wants to put accessory structures on it. And it's going to be consistent with the look and feel, I think, of the property next door and across the street. I would say though that I would like to have, if we do entertain approving this tonight as a board, I would like to see the fence line along Church Street be in alignment with the neighboring properties fence line, so that there's consistency there. But other than that, and keeping it consistent with the existing fence style, height, dimensions as the current property across the street. But other than that, I'm not, I think as a city say, I'm not vehemently opposed, but I do think this is a little bit unique in that we've got a property owner across the street from here that would like to do this. There's no opposing neighbors. I would also say that, we probably want to put some contingency on here that if a primary structure were to be contemplated in the future, either by the current owner or whether it were to be sold or transferred, that if a property or if a primary residence were to be contemplated, that we would, essentially make this variance null and void, and we would want to revisit this and either grant a new variance or a new plan. So that's where I would be coming from, at least from my perspective at this point. Other input from the board members?
I agree. Oops, sorry, Barney. I agree
No,
with
go
the contingencies. I think that normally a variance goes with the property, but I think in this case, there have to be contingencies on it because there's a good possibility that property would be sold, either improved or sold at some point. And I think the fence would look different. It needs to look different at that point.
I agree. Bernie, did you have a comment?
Yeah, kind of a question for the city. It's obviously it's a residential use, and their dogs are playing on this, not in a commercial capacity. It's not like it's a commercial dog play area where people come and bring their dogs and all that stuff. It's not a public playground. It's a residential private piece of property. Are there any prohibitions in the zoning code for any of this in public or residential uses, or is it just not addressed in the code?
Right now, it's just not addressed in the zoning code. At this point in time, there just hasn't been enough of it to have a reason to make regulations for it.
Yeah, I mean, my observation is that the Largers they've built a beautiful house on Church Street. The property is just immaculate. And what they've done across the street is also quite impressive, because I recall seeing it some time ago when they first had a variance request for their new house, and looking at the neighborhood, I think that property has been cleaned up quite a bit and it really looks good. And, I would think that, I don't know if reward is the right term, but I think we'd want to accommodate their request because they've done such nice work with that part of the city. I agree that there ought to be a contingency as we've discussed, but I would just like to go on record that we aren't approving or setting a precedent for other people to establish a dog park.
Good point, Bernie. Ms. Khan, Mr. Woolfolk, any other further comments?
I agree with those comments. Just so I'm clear on the fence line, are you suggesting the red line there, Chris?
Yeah, to the north, the north property line there, or the north of the property. Yeah, I was recommending that we stick with the alignment of the red line. It would be in alignment with the existing fence to the property directly to the east. Kurt, if you want to go ahead and highlight that fence, Kurt, to the east, and just see how it's in alignment with the red line. Yeah. Yep. So that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
I agree with that too.
Ms. Khan, any other comments?
No other comments. I agree with the proposed contingencies and, with granting the variance, as discussed.
Great. Okay, well, with that all being said, I would entertain a motion.
Okay, well, I'll jump in then. I'll make a motion to approve case number PLN 20-39 with the contingency that the fence align with the neighbor's fence, that the fence match the height and appearance of the larger's fence at 608 West Church Street. And that the variance does not grant perpetual rights to a dog park in the future, nor set a precedent.
And Bernie, do we want to mention anything about if the property were to have a primary structure built or change hands?
Yeah, I think I kind of glossed over it when I said as discussed, but maybe we ought to restate that just for clarity. So I'll rewind and I'll move we approve case number 20-39 at 608 West Church Street as presented, however, with the contingencies that the fence align with the neighbor's property, the fence match the existing one across the street, and that if a primary structure is constructed on the site, then the city has the right to request changes to the fence to match zoning requirements. And finally, that this decision by the board does not set a precedent for dog parks or similar precedents.
Is there a second?
Second.
And Bill, when you're ready, you can call the roll.
Mr. Kiesling,
Yes.
Mr. Kalpin,
Yes.
Mrs. Frankie,
Yes.
Mr. Wolfold,
Yes.
Khan,
Yes.
All right, congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Larger. Your variance has passed.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate
You're
your
very
support.
welcome. Okay, so the next meeting is scheduled for June 30th. I guess that's tentative at this point, right, Bill?
that's correct.
Right.
I'm assuming that we'll be doing it via Zoom again, but it's still a month away, so we'll see what happens.
Okay, well, if anything changes, I guess we'll want to make sure we do that in advance of having to send out notifications and all that type of thing. So I guess, is there anything right now that you know of that might be on the June 30th agenda?
Yes, there's only one thing. There's originally going to be two, but we're going to go ahead and take one off. We had a discussion about it today. So the only thing that'll be on the agenda for next month is a fence in the front yard for commercial property that has not been constructed yet.
Okay. All right, well, look forward to seeing everybody either virtually or in person on June 30th. And if there's no other matters of business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make the motion to adjourn.
I'll
All those
second.
There's a second. I think Ms. Frankie seconded. All those in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Meeting adjourned.
One.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time tonight.
Great.
Good job.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
Take
everyone.
care.
Bye.